Welcome to 3Con Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about AEW Dynamite, May 24th, 2023, and then we're going to do Double or Nothing predictions near the end of the show. Outside of more CM Punk banter, there has not been much on the news and notes front when it comes to AEW. And plus, I want this video to be digestible. I don't want it to be an hour and 30 minutes or anything like that of me scratching around trying to continue sniffing out the nuggets or the truffles of CM Punk news. Since Tony Khan did announce that Collision will be launching from Chicago, I think it's pretty safe to say CM Punk is going to be returning. Praise be the name of Phillip Brooks. Praise be the name of CM Punk. Now let's get into this show so I can get to Double or Nothing so I can go to bed. Also, before we get too deep into the show, rest in peace to the late, great Tina Turner. She was tremendous. Now, to give a little detail, a little detour, I should say, on that, I know her mostly from the movie What's Love Got to Do With It, and starred Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne. That movie was a big deal when I was a kid. And plus, Tina Turner's heyday was like in the 60s and 70s. She had already got into her rock and roll era. And then when I was growing up in the 90s, she was pretty much already an OG that really, my mom really didn't even listen to her, especially because she had went on to do more rock music. But Tina Turner had an extremely powerful voice. I mean, she had an incredible voice. One of my favorite songs is not even Proud Mary. She was a great performer, by the way. It's all like just visually performing, striking. But it's actually River Deep, Mountain High. You should probably go listen to that song if you have never listened to Tina Turner before. It's a great example of how strong her voice is. But she has quite a few great joints. And I'm infinitely more interested in talking about Tina Turner than talking about Orange Cassidy. But we got to talk about Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy has like a 20-minute match with some guy named Kyle Fletcher, who sounds like he slid out of the Performance Center, like he escaped out the back door to AEW. This guy is from Aussie Open. The other guy is apparently injured. They got stripped of all their tag team titles and ended up being, I guess, free agents. Then the internet started flipping all around that WWE was interested in them. Mere 20 minutes into this show, we found out that Tony Khan had signed them. So now Aussie Open are all elite, which is great for them. Not so great for us. Now, on the subject of WWE being interested, quote unquote, I think people say that in order to drive up the cost of to Tony Khan, because Triple H is the kind of guy who would sign Aussie Open, wouldn't he? The big stars. It's like, who the hell is going to spend any money on two guys whose only skill is being able to fluff the pillows for Will Ospreay? Nobody here is going to spend money on those guys. Why would you do that? Why in the world would you do that? Now, Tony Khan, the perfect mark for this kind of stuff. Because I watched, this match was 20 minutes. There was nothing in this match that made me jump out and say, oh, Kyle Fletcher, I would give him money to wrestle. No, he is generic guy who does moves, and that's it. I saw him do a double tombstone, a tombstone power driver, in which he held on to the move to do a jumping, spinning tombstone power driver, and still managed to lose the match. He did like a greedy from like a Michinoku driver from the second rope or the top rope or something like that, and still managed to lose. This dude is an indie wrestler. All right, I am extremely happy AEW signed him. Now he's going to get shuffled off to Collision or Dark Elevation if those shows still exist, or Rampage as Conan calls it, and I won't have to deal with this crap anymore. This guy sucks. Orange Cassidy eating up 20 minutes of the show every week. Mwah, absolutely tremendous in killing the ratings. All right, next, Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks talking about last week when he got disqualified, said he was tired of getting jumped from behind, tired of Juice and Jay, but he did that. He was in full control. He didn't lose his mind. He knew what he was doing, and says that he's moving on to this international championship 21-man battle royal, and he's focused on that. He's focused on being a champion, and says that what he can do to 2 men, he can do to 20. And then he got jumped again by Jay White and Juice Robinson. God dang it. Just as he was complaining about, I'm sick and tired of being jumped, they jumped him again. You know, it's almost, they jumped him again. They threw him all over the place, then held him down. Juice Robinson made rabbit noises like he got rabies or something like that. I'm sure Brian Last and Jim Cornette loves them some Juice Robinson. You already know. I'm about ready to throw that asshole in a wood chipper, personally. That's just me personally. In Minecraft, of course. Not ever in the real world, but completely, totally in The Sims. I would throw him in a wood chipper. Jay White says that they're having too much fun making Ricky Stark's life hell to leave him alone. And this feud will never end. It just goes on and on, my friend. It just goes on and on. At least we know Ricky Starks is in this 21-man international title thing. Does that mean that Jay White is going to be in it too? Does that mean one of these two guys could potentially win it and continue their feud, but for the international title? I would think that would be infinitely more interesting than whatever they plan to do with Orange Cassidy. But I'm not a fan of Orange Cassidy, man. You guys know this already. I'm not going to beat that drum to death. I will give you guys a surprise, though. I like the Jungle Boy promo. They did the video packages for each. Well, they didn't do a video package for each member. But Jack Perry cut a promo. Sammy Guevara cut a promo later. Then Darby and MJF cut promo in the ring. So let's talk about all of this. The supposed main event guys in this company. Jack Perry talked about riding down the road to Vegas. And he's made that road many times in his life. They say he used to wrestle in the casinos in Las Vegas. He also traveled down those roads to the first Double or Nothing. Then said the last year when he made that trip, Christian Cage was with him and whispering in his ear and giving him advice, but had no idea how his life was going to change after that. Then he says that the ring gives him purpose, that being in AEW gives him the chance to live life the way he wants to live. And he wants to be the world champion. Okay. This was actually not bad. I'm not saying it was good. I'm saying it's improvement. I'm giving him credit for improving. Telling the story about driving down the roads and how, because they run pretty much the same building every year, it does create memories. So trying to connect memories to Double or Nothing, connecting memories to this travel, to this trip, and saying that this is the next level. Being world champion is the next level of every time I travel down this road is something bigger and better or whatever. And this is the biggest situation, him wrestling for the world title. And I get that. I can respect that. Unfortunately, Sammy Guevara cut a promo. Sammy Guevara says that people told him, they offered him money for his dreams or something like that. That bosses tried to pay him to be realistic and work extra hours or whatever the hell they tried to get him to do. But Sammy Guevara is not for sale. And he's tired of people trying to buy him out of his dreams. Oh, God. Ugh. The next wrestler starts talking about their dreams. Man, shoot him out of a cannon. For Christ's sake. And people telling him to live in he lives in a fantasy world. But no, he lives in a real world. And he's going to really become the world champion. I was like, not likely. Not likely. Sammy Guevara like he washed cars. Not likely. He cuts grass for a living. Not likely. MJF cuts a promo, and this feels like a real wrestling promo. He starts talking about his various opponents, saying that he's got a lot of wishes. So he wishes for Sammy Guevara to keep sticking his tongue out until he runs into a light socket. That was pretty good. So he wishes for Jungle Boy to have to watch his own promos until he bores himself to death. That was pretty good. Then he says he wishes that Darby Allin goes to climb Mount Everest with his shoes untied. That would make me laugh. So that was a good one. So he starts talking about the pillars are the day one guys. He'd been there since the beginning. They didn't have the benefit of being on national TV before, and they gave them the best matches and the best moments. They are AEW. But he says he's kind of bored about being in AEW. He's sick of the lack of competition. He's sick of the lack of the fans appreciating him. He reminded everybody that his contract is coming up, and said that Khan is it a coincidence that Khan gave him 3 opponents, hoping that anybody could take the title off of him before the bidding war of 2024, and said that he's worried that he's going to take the belt and go on home. And he would, because the belt is his. Darby Allin interrupted, says that he didn't know who Darby Allin was and where he was going, but over the years he's figured it out. He says he listened to the people who told him to play it safe at first, and that led him to cleaning toilets at the Piggly Wiggly or whatever the hell he was doing. Then he started talking about taking chances, living in his car, being a pro wrestler, how wrestling saved his life, and that AEW came along and it made him live the life that he wants to live. Literally just the same fucking promo Jungle Boy just cut. Another origin story promo. I had a tough life. I had to work a job. Can you believe that? I worked a job. I was like, oh my God. I'll tell you about that time I was a fry cook at KFC when I was 17. It's like, okay, we know you weren't born a pro wrestler. I'm pretty sure every single motherfucker that's ever been in this business could cut a similar promo of how they had to stack boxes or chop wood or whatever before they was a wrestler. We don't give a shit, all right? We don't care about your shitty jobs. That wasn't that long ago, if we're being honest. You're not that old, okay? Like, you're 25 or something like that, 28. You know, you were probably, you know, the bag boy at the grocery store not that long ago. All right. So now he's talking about he wants to give back, which is his usual thing. He needs to be the world champion of AEW because he wants to be the face of AEW. He gets into MJF's face. MJF kicks him in the ball sack. Then he's going to punch him with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, which I can't believe is still a gimmick that exists. Sammy Guevara ran out there, chased MJF off. And while MJF was running up the ramp, Jungle Boy came out there. For some reason, the fans are going back and forth, like singing the song. I don't know. Then Jungle Boy hit MJF with a clothesline, which MJF stayed down forever afterwards. I mean, you'd think MJF got hit in the head with a baseball bat the way he was laying on the ramp. You'd think he got assassinated like JFK the way he was laying on that ramp. And of course, Jungle Boy teased by picking up the championship belt. And I was like, ugh, don't do this to me. Why would you do this to me? Like I said, Jungle Boy's promo was pre-taped. So that's why it was improved. Sammy Guevara's promo was live. And it was awful. Darby Allin has improved. MJF is still very good at promos. This still did not make me want to watch this match. This match, at this point in time, should probably go on first, if we're being honest. Everything else got entirely more heat than this. Now, the only thing that's keeping this as a quote-unquote main event is that the World Championship is on the line. If this was not a world title match, this would be a first match. You know, first match on the show opener kind of deal. Get MJF in there and get him out of there. He should pull a Bruno or a Hogan, go on third, and then try to beat traffic out of there, you know? It's unfortunate, but this is how they're doing things now. Moving on, FTR, supposed best tag team in the world. They kind of in the ring and started cutting the promo. First, they talked about how Lethal and Jarrett got over on them. FTR here was actually doing a lot of talking, which was a surprise to me. Said that they outsmarted them every step of the way, but they're lucky and their luck is running out on Sundays. Then FTR Bald took over, says that Jeff Jarrett broke 1,000 guitars but couldn't manage to stay relevant. He wanted so badly to steal the Mike Graham. Broke 1,000 guitars, never drew a dime. He just wanted to say that, but he just said never can stay relevant. Then he says that they refuse to let rejects from TNA be the leaders of the tag team division, and that they need to call the Queen of the Mountain. He's not talking about his whore wife Karen, but he's talking about Dixie Carter to make sure that they still have some job security. I was like, okay. They came across very aggressive here. It was very aggressive. I don't dislike it, but I also don't like it. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Mark Briscoe came out there. FTR here said that he doesn't think that Mark Briscoe should let Lethal and Jarrett make him look bad. Don't make him look stupid. Everybody knows that was a mistake. He's like, yeah, whatever. He called FTR his blood brothers because they bled together. But says, hey, man, what's up with that power driver? What was that power driver about? So Dax, said, look, I was blinded. I was upset. Bad things happened. I apologize. I'm sorry. So then he stuck out his hand and then said, be a man. Shake my hand for my daughter. I'm sorry, pro wrestling. Shake my hand. And Mark Briscoe was not interested. Pushed his hand away. So Dax demanded that Mark Briscoe shake his hand. Mark Briscoe slapped him instead. So now FTR Harris got a whole FTR bald back. He's got this big old patch on his head too, which is hilarious. He's got like a big patch on the back of his head, like off to the side. And I didn't notice it until FTR Harris started holding him back. I'm like, what is he covering? He's like Pete Puma from like the Looney Tunes or something like that. Like, he got like knots in his head. Like, what's that about? So Jarrett and his crew started coming out there, and this is where we get probably one of the funniest things that has been recorded on AEW television in a really, really long time. So Mark Briscoe sees these gaggle of weirdos coming, and they're coming down the ramp one at a time. So he gets out of the ring. He shoves Karen out of the way. He walks up on Sanjay, pushes him to the side too. Jeff starts walking up. He smacks him, and then he gets real close up to Jay Lethal, grabs him by the collar, and says that they always been friends and that they boys and shit, but he's tired of the bullshit. And then he walks off. Like this gauntlet that he pulled, where he essentially knocked everybody out, was fucking great. All right, it was fucking great. Him just tossing Karen and then shoving Sanjay. Like, it would have been great if like the big guy was there and he'd kicked him in the nuts or something like that. It would have been great, but I liked it. I liked that part at least. Now, all the stuff with FTR in the ring, it all feels very forced because all of this stuff is being put together very quickly. So there's no heat to it to me anyway. Besides, to me, the only thing that could possibly interest me is that Jarrett wins. That's the only thing that could make me interested in this, is the cataclysmic reaction of the world collapsing because Jeff Jarrett won a match in 2023. I wish for it to happen. I pray to the wrestling gods that it would actually occur and that Jeff Jarrett would win a tag team title so I could see people cry about it. I would love that. I would really enjoy that. That would make my day. And knowing that's going to be a long day on Sunday, I probably need it. All right, the next match, Trios Championship, the House of Black versus AR Fox, Metalik, and Blake Christian. The dealer's choice was Lucha rules, basically one man in, one man out. You don't have to tag. I hated this match. Somebody on Twitter, it was one of the wrestling journalists, a dweeb, mentioned in a legitimate criticism that AR Fox has not won a single match on Dynamite, and he continuously gets championship matches. Like, how does that happen? And I thought about it, and I'm like, hey, wait, that is a good point. He's wrestled for the tag team titles, the TNT title. I think he's wrestled for the trios belts more than once. Like, when didn't he team up with the boys? Not the boys, but the Air Flight, Top Flight, yeah. Didn't he team up with them to wrestle for the trios belts? Like, this guy has gotten a lot of title shots for a guy who has never won a match on this show. And because I don't think about him that much, AR Fox literally has the same match every time you see him, which is he jumps all over the place. He does a bunch of flips, then he loses. Like, that's literally it. That's his match. And that's what this match was. That's what this match was. So it is what it is. The interesting thing here, I guess, if you could say there's anything interesting, is that Buddy Matthews has started using Rhea Ripley's submission hold finisher, and that's what he won the match with. But other than that, this match was toss it in the bin. Who cares? The Blackpool Combat Club, they had things to say. Bryan Danielson said that Claudio and Yuta were going to win the tag team titles, the Ring of Honor tag team title, and take tag team wrestling to the next level. And then Sunday, they were going to end the Elite. Then Moxley took over, cut a pretty good promo by saying that they're the best in the world because they set the standard. And they do this business, the job, as he says, the way it's meant to be done. Then he says that, well, he asked the question of the Elite, that are they willing to deliver when it counts? Because the Blackpool Combat Club are. And I said, okay, well, Moxley at least is very serious, and he's cutting very serious promos. And I like this. So this leads a little bit into the Hangman Page promo. Now, Hangman Page, he's trying to give off the air that he's tough. So now he's got like this leather eye patch. But when he went to the eye patch, you can't do the eye patch and a man bun. You can't do them both. All right. You can do one, you can do the other, but doing them both at the same time defeats the purpose. Nobody ever believes that you're tough if you have a man bun. You have a man bun, you work in an office. I know because I do it. I know because I've seen Booker T on WWE panels with his hair wrapped up. That's the only time you're supposed to have your hair. If you're going to look for a fight or trying to sell a fight, you don't want to have your hair all tied up on your head neat and you look like a little girl. That's not perfect. It's fine if you were in a professional setting, right? You're in an office setting. That's perfectly fine. But you're a professional wrestler on a professional wrestling show, cutting a promo about bad things you're going to do to somebody, and you got this tight little bun on your head. You look like a figure skater. And then the eye patches on there too. It doesn't help. It's not helping. Okay. It's not helping. Anyway, his promo was that he's never really been friends with Kenny Omega, but they're family, and families stick together, and that the price that the Blackpool Combat Club has run up on them is entirely too high. And this Sunday, they're going to have to pay it in blood. And I was like, all right, I guess. If you say so. I believe you. I don't, but okay. So that leads us to the main event. Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship. La Lucha Brothers versus the Blackpool Combat Club. Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli. Now, I don't know how many of you follow the Impact Wrestling YouTube account. They posted up Slammiversary 2018. And I watched it, and I was reminded how absolutely incredibly hot Pentagon was at the time. Like, Pentagon in 2017, 2018 was one of the most over dudes in the business. You know, like he had a mask versus hair match with Sami Callihan, the Warthog Sami Callihan, on that show. It's actually it's kind of crazy. You know, it's kind of crazy. You're stabbing each other and stuff. If you're into that kind of thing, you know, but the crowd was very, very into it. It's probably the hottest an Impact crowd had been in a long time. And I was like, man, you know, Penta is still very over in AEW, but nowhere near as over as he was when he was in Impact. Nowhere near as over as he was when AEW first started. And I think that diminish has come from the tag team stuff and the fact that I guess over time people saw that he kind of just does the same thing over and over again. But he's incredibly charismatic, talented dude. And I feel like he doesn't get enough credit because they've been doing the Lucha Brothers tag team for like 4 straight years. He hasn't gotten a singles run yet in AEW. But I'm willing to say that they're probably missing money by not trying to do a singles run with Penta. I think Penta as a single star, there's money there because look at how over he got on his own, essentially, you know, just a couple of years ago. And it'll have to change things up, I think, because it's been so long with the same gimmick. But I think they're missing something. The same thing with Roosh. You know, I heard Jim Cornette just absolutely go ape shit on Roosh. And it's like, look, Roosh is great. All right. He's always aggressive. He's always every Roosh match is him beating the shit out of somebody every single time. All right. The fact that Jungle Boy couldn't find a hole in which to fight back from, that's his own fault. All right. The OGs would even tell you, you better learn how to work. You better learn how to cut people off, how to get your shit in. You know, don't throw weak clotheslines and he won't wipe them off. You know? But that's how Roosh works, man. He's very aggressive. And I think they're missing out by not pushing him too. You know, it just tells you like it's not always the talent in AEW. You know, sometimes it's the way that you use them. Like giving 20 minutes to Kyle Fletcher and Daniel Garcia is not going to make anybody's spurs jingle and jangle, for Christ's sake. Nobody gives a fuck about these guys. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about this tag team championship match. The crowd was very into it because they like the Lucha Brothers. Also, Claudio was here, so everybody was, you know, in a good space. Wheeler Yuta, however, was the anchor of this joint, and it was absolutely terrible. He's like always boring. He sucks. Danielson is on commentary. So the Blackpool Combat Club is well represented here. At one point, the Young Bucks attack Claudio outside the ring, leaving Wheeler Yuta inside the ring, and the Lucha Brothers beat him. So that's how the Blackpool Combat Club lost right before their big pay-per-view match at Double or Nothing. They lose. Well, great. Thank you very much for coming. Look, how come you couldn't just wait one more week for this tag team title match? Why couldn't you wait one more week? Why beat the Blackpool Combat Club at all right before the pay-per-view? Even if it is Yuta. You know, why? Why? Anyway, John Moxley cut a promo, told the Young Bucks to take pictures with these slobs while they could, slap hands, and talk to their family while they still can. Because this week at Double or Nothing, they're not accepting anything less than pure violence. And he promised one of the most violent matches to have ever taken place in the United States or something like that. And I actually do believe him because John Moxley is fully retarded. All right. And this is his artistry. They're going to give him what he wants, which is an opportunity to stab people, use glass, and a bunch of other stuff. I hate that Danielson's going to be a part of this because he doesn't need to be. But it's just it's going to be a fate worse than death. Hopefully nobody gets hurt too bad, but I can pretty much tell you somebody's going to get hurt. And hopefully it's not Danielson. That's all I'm going to say about that. We'll talk about it more in the preview. Wardlow cut a promo. He's still dressing very normal, but at least it was more stylish than usual. He says that Christian believes that he's got the advantage because he made the ladder match famous. He did not. He did not. Then he said that he spent his entire career climbing ladders and reminded everybody that he won a silly ladder match. I don't know how long ago that was. And that Christian's got a big mouth and he bet he could fit a ladder in it. And I just like, no. Send him to promo class, y'all. Send him to promo class. Arn Anderson tried to save it. He couldn't. Next, Taya Valkyrie defeated Lady Frost. Lady Frost, who has the haircut of Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. Look, I like Lady Frost, but this is basically her job. She comes out, she does a bunch of impressive stuff, then she loses. She's the girl version of AR Fox. So Taya Valkyrie wins. Jade Cargill was watching, and Layla Gray. Ooh, shit. That girl is aggressively hot. All right? I mean, she's in your face. I mean, look, Jade Cargill is hot, of course, you know. But when I'm looking at Jade Cargill and Layla Gray's on the screen at the same time, it's like somebody grabbed my cheeks and turned my head in her direction. Like, that's what you should be looking at. Like, Jade Cargill is like a statue. But Layla Gray is something else. That girl's like a stack of butterscotch candy. You know, like that girl, bad. That's a bad chick. I didn't know that Taya Valkyrie is wrestling Jade Cargill at the pay-per-view. I was wondering why. Like, why? Why is this happening? Doesn't matter. Lady Frost is, I think, signed the Ring of Honor. Good for her. That's really good for her. Chris Jericho and Adam Cole, they had a contract signing. Adam Cole tried to cut a promo, tried to sound tough. It did not work. It did not come across as tough at all, period. But it did confuse the hell out of me. So he was wondering why Chris Jericho thought it was a good idea to handcuff him and force him to watch Britt Baker get whipped. Then he says, obviously because you think you're invincible. You think that AEW should be lucky to have you. And then he starts going off about all these horrible things he's going to do to Jericho. He's going to break his leg. He's going to shatter his jaw. He's going to break his hands. And I'm just kind of looking at that stuff, and I was like, I don't believe you. You're very small. You're very fragile. I do not believe you. I don't believe you're really going to do all of these things. When you cut a wrestling promo, it should at least be believable. All right. Jericho cut a promo, called him a coward, said that he remembers the whip thing differently, then showed it on the screen, which pissed off Adam Cole even more. I guess it's a time to remind you, if you didn't know, that they all promised no contact during this whole shabazzle. So he called him a coward. Jericho then signed the contract and then said, hey, guess what? There's no rules in our unsanctioned match, right? There's 5 of us. There's 2 of you. So then Adam Cole's like, yeah, you're right. You're right. So I made a phone call. I'm like, uh-oh, who he call? And he says he lives here in Las Vegas. And I was like, oh, really? Who? I'm trying to think of wrestlers from Las Vegas. Like, who? Ryback? And then he's like, homicidal, suicidal. I was like, Sabu. And sure enough, it's Sabu. So Sabu comes out there, and he looks nicer than he's looked in a long time. He looks very presentable. He doesn't look like he sleeps in the garbage bin anymore. He doesn't look like he eats out of the garbage anymore. He got a nice little shiny turban, white suit. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, Unc. All right. I look on the Twitter to see if anybody's excited. The first thing I see is Ryan Satin. Oh no, Sabu called somebody the N-word. And then ringside seats. The audacity of that asshole. Oh no, he said terrible things about Renee Paquette several years ago. I'm like, these fucking hall monitors literally decided to, the moment Sabu came out, to dig up old stories to talk about this stuff. This is parasitical behavior. He's an absolute parasite. And here's the worst thing. Ryan Satin basically admitted that he didn't want to talk about the WWE racial lawsuit because he doesn't work. He said, I'm not a wrestling journalist anymore, so I don't have to talk about that, because it might jeopardize his job. And I was like, you know what? That makes you an even bigger scumbag. All right. Now, here's the issue. I was going to make a separate video about it, but you guys are, I'm not going to make you click a separate video. Let's just give it to you all. In the situation that occurred is that Sabu called Taz a nigger. All right. This was in 2016. He says, when somebody called him out, he says, grow up. Everyone's a little bit racist, even your mother. I'm not a racist, but I don't care if a nigger that called me a drug addict thinks so. So he tweeted out that Taz was a nigger, and then he called somebody else a nigger too. I'm talking about hard R nigger. And then said that everybody's a little bit racist. This was in 2016, man. It's almost 10 years ago. It was 7 years ago. All right. So then later in 2018, he made some comments about Renee Paquette, who, when she became the lead commentator for Monday Night Raw, he said, quote, she is the first non-fag, but she is one of the many cocksuckers. And people are very upset about this, that he said this about Renee, their precious Renee Paquette, that he said she was a non-fag, but a cocksucker. Sabu is 58 years old. All right. He spent his entire life eating through a broken jaw, crawling around in barbed wire, getting blown up. He's got more scars than most people have strands of hair on the top of their goddamn head. Should we ever be surprised that a guy like that is dropping hard R's on Twitter? No, I'm not surprised at all. I'm not offended. I don't care. Right? The thing is, these things are supposed to upset you. And if the idea is that word upsets people, why would you keep throwing it in people's faces? How about that? The second thing is, why do we keep expecting ECW guys to be progressives? Like these guys who were pill poppers and alcoholics, they might have been fun when you were going to their shows when they were younger and they needed you for money. in order to get their next fix. But most of them was drug addicts. But ultimately, they don't share your view of progressivism. Their view of progressivism is I say whatever the hell I want to, because they probably listen to hard rock music like Guns N' Roses or something like that, where the lead singer dropped a hard R on that joint one time. It happens. They called each other homos and fags and stuff all the time. It was part of their lingo. It's what they do. They're older people. Get over it. But even if you wanted to be offended, I just don't like the hall monitor snitch tagging. Hey, you remember this? It's like, no, people don't remember actually. But I think we also need to be allowed, like, unless you molested a child, we need to let people outgrow things. We need to move on from shit. Like, we can't be shackled to Hulk Hogan said the N-word 10 years ago. It's like, come on. Get the fuck out of here. Like, that's not even the worst possible thing for a person to do. I'm not about to sit here and shackle, a guy's legacy and his entire life to him saying the N-word on Twitter or him saying it in a dark room somewhere where that wasn't meant to be heard. I don't care. And the person that Sabu called a nigger ain't even black. He was talking about Taz. It would have been one thing if it had been like JT Smith or if he'd call it New Jack a nigger or something like that. That'd have been one thing. But he's talking about Taz, who he hates. So it's like, what does this got to do with black people? There's no black people in this conversation. Sabu is Lebanese. Taz is Italian. There's no black people in this conversation whatsoever. So I don't care. He didn't like at least Hogan was talking about somebody who was actually black. Sabu was not even talking about anybody black. Taz is just very, very bronzed, like Mark Merrow. You slip through the cracks because you're very bronzed. But everybody trying to play hall monitor and get upset about Sabu, man, get off it. Get the fuck out of here. Nobody really cares. If you set up late at night, your feelings all hurt because Sabu called Taz the N-word, who cares, really? Get a life, loser. Get a life, kid. All right, there's a promo for Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm. Toni Storm says she's going to rip off Jamie Hayter's arm and eat it. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Sorry. I forgot to mention that Roderick Strong beat Daniel Garcia in a match that had so little charisma. I actually felt my own charisma being torn out of my biceps. Like, I felt like I was being dragged into the TV, and I was like, no, I was fighting it. It's like something out of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or some shit. It was a very difficult time for me. And they actually talked about Willow Nightingale winning the Strong Women's Championship, defeating Mercedes Moné. Unfortunately, I think Mercedes broke her ankle or twisted her ankle or fractured her ankle or something like that in the process, which is the only way Willow won. But Willow will apparently be defending this title on AEW TV, probably on Ring of Honor TV. And she's going to use it to prove how strong she really is. Okay. It's a fair thing to do. She is in AEW. And they are partners with New Japan. So it makes sense that they want to, increase her profile. Unfortunately, when I'm looking at this championship and I'm saying to myself, this title means nothing in the grand scheme of things. For starters, those strong belts don't mean anything anyway. Okay. Those belts literally, they're just for the New Japan Strong brand, which is, I think, their American brand. And it's not very strong, like it's a very ironic title. Like they run in high school gyms. They don't even fill them up. Like, this tournament that they had, this resurgence show that they had, it was in a high school gym and it looked like it was only about 3/4 full. And look, I get it. They're trying to break into the American market, but they didn't double or triple the number of championships that they have in New Japan just so they can launch this brand. And it's not a brand that is really over. I don't think that, look, nobody even cares about, like, people talked about this show because Mercedes was on the show. I don't know anything else that happened on this show. Outside of her breaking her leg or whatever it was, I don't know anything else that happened on this show. It was so non-important that nobody in the wrestling media was even talking about it. They're not even talking about the Best of Super Juniors, which has been going on this entire time. I've been poking in and out of it, but they're not even talking about that. So all of this just comes across as being real phony. We're going to use this championship to raise her profile, but only because she's already on Ring of Honor TV and being featured on Ring of Honor TV, as far as I know. And from what I've seen of Ring of Honor, she is featured on there. She wins a lot on there. But she's beating people who are scrubs. I'm talking absolutely local competitors. That's, she's beating those guys like every week or whatever. It's not like she's really putting in work, so, but it's a good thing, I guess. Everybody likes Willow. I don't know anybody who doesn't like her. So everybody's pretty much happy for her, even though the circumstances of her winning it is pretty screwy, because everybody knows that she was not supposed to beat Mercedes, but it is what it is. It couldn't be helped. The girl was injured. I guess she's going to hold that championship until Mercedes is ready to beat her for it, which probably be in a couple of weeks. So it's a very tough time for the New Japan brand. They hinged and they bet all their chips on Sasha Banks, and she ended up getting hurt. Too bad, so sad. Now you see where WWE was in this in this thing. You put a lot of money, a lot of chips on the table, and she'll go out there and injure herself. And next thing you know, she'll spend weeks eating ice cream in the bed, and you'll be paying her to do nothing because, that's how she rolls. Anyway, let's get into Double or Nothing, because let's get to this, and I like to get to bed sometime soon. As usual, Double or Nothing is going to be from Las Vegas, Nevada at the T-Mobile Arena. It's going to be held the same day as NXT Battleground, and they're claiming these are two major promotions going head to head. I don't buy it. I'm not buying it. All right, this is a 9-match show, which means it's going to be 8 hours. Oh my God, we're gonna need a lunch break. All right, it should be illegal to make you watch this much wrestling without a break. There's 9 matches. Some of these ain't going less than 20. All right, let's start at the bottom. Adam Cole versus Chris Jericho, unsanctioned match. Well, clearly Adam Cole has to win this match. He did get abused in front of his girlfriend. He was supremely embarrassed. So he's got to win. Jericho doesn't need to win. Plus, Jericho just lost to Roderick Strong. If Jericho was to beat Adam Cole, that would be bad. That would not be good. I just hope that Adam Cole has fun and that he doesn't scramble his brains further. But the question, of course, remains, where do either one of these people go from here? Jericho has a remarkable ability to lose a bunch of matches and still not be affected. Meanwhile, the people who beat him, like Action Andretti, like Orange Cassidy, like so many of these other people, they have a difficult time bouncing back. Okay, so Adam Cole has this really great thing with Chris Jericho. He wins. Now what's his next step? Because we've heard that Jericho is one of the top 2 contenders to be a Punk feud when he comes back. The other being Samoa Joe. So one of those two is going to end up winning the Punk sweepstakes. Even if it was Joe, Jericho is probably going to be positioned with somebody else. And what is Cole going to be doing? That's going to be the question. Like, what's his next move? Is he the number 1 contender after this? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? And if he is the number 1 contender, is he actually going to win the title? That's a question. I'm still going to go with Adam Cole winning this match, though. 6-man tag team match. Ethan Page and the Guns versus the Hardy Party. Isaiah Cassidy, Jeff Hardy, and Matt Hardy. If the Hardy Party wins, Matt Hardy will own Ethan Page's contract. Please, don't do this. Don't even bother. Don't put this on the show. I don't even want this on the pre-show. Just call it a day. Can we simulate this? Can this be like this match happened in Rio de Janeiro and you just tell me what happened and I don't have to actually watch it? Look, I have no problem with the Hardys. If they were wrestling in a match with some heat against some good opponents, even if they were just wrestling the Gun Club, just the 2 of them, they had put some thought into it, they had put some energy into it, then yeah, I would be fine with this. But a 6-man tag in order for guys to be winning other guys' contracts, man, who's going to try to keep up with this shit? Who's going to try to commit this shit to memory? Who's watching this Rampage ass feud? Nobody's watching this. Put this on TV somewhere. Put it on Rampage. We don't want this here. Move this to the side. This show's already too long. Get this out of here. Cut this. Cut it. Tony, cut it. Cut it. No. Send it home. Go away. Singles match for the TBS Championship. Jade Cargill versus Taya Valkyrie. Now, a lot of people are saying, okay, clearly Taya Valkyrie is going to win the title this time. And I want to say, I believe she was going to win the title the first time. Since she didn't win the title the first time, she shouldn't win it this time either. At this point, you should take Jade Cargill's winning streak and you should make somebody with it. Taya Valkyrie, in front of the audience that already exists, she's already a star. She's not going to be diminished at all if she doesn't beat Jade. And if she does beat Jade, you're just guaranteeing that this title is going to go to Rampage or Collision and be stuck in the middle somewhere where nobody's going to give a shit, which is pretty much what's going to happen anyway. But I think if you're going to have Jade drop the title, it should be to somebody that you're trying to make. Should you wait forever for Chris Statlander? No. Should you consider that maybe you should push some other woman? Yes. I think it should have been Athena months ago. You know, she needed it after, you know, such a terrible run in WWE. It'd have been great to reestablish her. Now, that's what she's doing with the Ring of Honor Women's title, but she's also doing that on Ring of Honor TV, and virtually nobody's watching that shit. You know, virtually nobody's watching that shit. So, we're looking at this thing now, and we're saying, if not Taya, then who? And that's the question that everybody has. If not Taya, then who? And I think you don't need to have to answer to that question. You know, I think Taya is older. She's a veteran. She doesn't really need this. Okay. To me, this match don't need to happen on that Double or Nothing anyway. The last time they had a match, Jade won clean. Now I know that there was silly rules about, you know, her not being able to use, her being Taya couldn't use her finisher, and now she can. It's like, that's not going to make the match better because the match sucked the first time. It sucked. It wasn't good. Now maybe, and just maybe, you have Thunder Rosa beat, well, she can't wrestle, but that would have been one of the people you could have considered. There's quite a few people you probably could have considered that Jade Cargill hasn't beaten. So yes, we do need to be winding down this title run for her. But at the same time, though, you just can't give it to anybody just because, well, people are ready for her to lose. You have to position this thing better. You have to build it better. And I think if she loses to Taya, it'd be very anticlimactic. And it wouldn't do Taya much of anything, really. So I'm going to go with Jade. Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm for the AEW Women's Championship. I'm not going to lie to you. I couldn't give a fuck less about this match. If Jamie Hayter is really injured, then Toni Storm winning is probably the best option. Toni Storm is at least got some momentum when it comes to the Outcast and all this kind of stuff that she's been doing. So at the very least, that's something to consider, that maybe you want to keep Toni's momentum going. At the same time, though, it almost guarantees that the feud continues if Toni wins. If Toni loses, then you have the idea that maybe we can get over this thing and they can move on and go their separate ways. But they still can go their separate ways anyway, because AEW doesn't believe in rematches, not necessarily. So you don't necessarily get a rematch if you lose. So it's possible for Jamie Hayter to drop the belt to Toni, and then for Toni to go and defend against other people. But I definitely think that if we're looking at a conversation that needs to be had on the subject of Jade Cargill dropping her belt and then winning the world title, it might be better for her to win it from Toni Storm than her winning it from Jamie Hayter. The difference being is Hayter's character would definitely be damaged if she was beaten by Jade Cargill, you know, because her character is based off her strength and her abilities, and Toni Storm's isn't. So you could beat Toni Storm, and then you also have the storyline that built into the Outcast character work, where they're the outsiders who come into AEW, and they're feuding with the homegrown talent, and Jade Cargill is a homegrown talent. So you could easily just have Jade drop the belt to somebody, Taya, whoever, and then transition her over here to the world title. Put the world title belt on Tony, and then she is the new fresh-faced homegrown talent that's trying to be the world champion. And you could do that, and that might work in order to keep people interested in Jade without her going back to that TBS belt. Or you could have Jamie Hayter win, and you could still do the same thing with Jade Cargill. But this women's title is incredibly poorly booked. It's shitty. It's a shitty booking, okay? These two teams have been tied up forever, and they're seemingly in a knot, and you can't unravel it. There's just no way of getting around it. So it really doesn't matter, but I'm going to go with Toni Storm. Wardlow versus Christian Cage. Ladder match for the TNT Championship. I don't think having Wardlow lose the title again so soon is an affront to big men everywhere. And actually, even though I would love to see the absolute deluge of hate that would come from Christian Cage winning the title, I don't think he needs it. And I think he's in a similar situation to Taya Valkyrie, where Christian not only doesn't need it, but he probably might actively do harm to Wardlow if he did win it. Like him winning the title in a ladder match, Wardlow doesn't have to get pinned or submitted. So that doesn't make him look too bad. And plus it's going to be a situation where it's going to be 2-on-1 essentially. Because what is Arn going to do? Is Arn going to take a bump? No. So but still, I think he's going to overcome the odds and win. So I'm going to go with Wardlow. I would have preferred for them to have a regular match, but I guess this adds a little bit more drama to it because Christian can win without actually pinning Wardlow. But I wouldn't buy to it too much. I'm gonna go with Wardlow. 21-man Blackjack Battle Royal for the AEW International Championship. This match, the winner will be the champion, apparently. I said in my AEW review that I think the winner will probably be Ricky Starks or Jay White. And I'm going to go with that. I think that Orange Cassidy is going to end up being a contender for MJF's title. And he needs to drop this belt. And him losing this belt in a battle royal is probably the best way for him to lose the title without getting pinned or submitted. Outside of a ladder match, it's probably the best way for him to lose the title without getting pinned or submitted. That way, if he was to, it breaks his win streak, but if he were to go back to the singles route, he could always say he was never pinned or submitted for his title, and he could challenge MJF for that world title and actually, benefit from putting MJF over. But I expect there to be some returns here. This is probably where you'll see Pac return. You might even see Miro return. It would be nice if Miro actually won the title. That would be great. It'd be a good look. But I think definitely Orange Cassidy loses the title in this battle royal to Ricky Starks or Jay White or Miro or somebody like that. I don't know. But it just tells me that hopefully it's not like Butcher and the Blade level guys in here. Even though I know they will be there. I want to call the guy Pizzerina Uno so mad. What's the fuck his name? Evil Uno. Dark Order level guys. They're going to be in this. But there might be some solid top guys in here too. But this belt got to get off of Orange Cassidy. It's got to. For Christ's sake. Christ on a cracker. We got to get that belt off of him. Next. FTR versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, with the special guest referee being Mark Briscoe for the AEW Tag Team Championship. As badly as I want Jarrett and Lethal to win, just so people can cry about it, I don't see what the next level is for FTR anyway. What is really the next level? They beat Lethal and Jarrett, and then they fight who? Aussie Open? Isn't that, like I said, I think the one guy from Aussie Open is injured, the hairy one. He's injured. The one who looked like an NXT talent is still around. But who is FTR feuding with once they get done with Lethal and Jarrett? Who's next? There is it's classic terrible AEW booking. We don't know who's next because I don't think they even thought this far ahead, let alone far enough to consider who might be next. I'm going to go with FTR because I don't think Jeff Jarrett winning the title in 2023 is going to make people very happy. And Tony Khan likes to keep people happy. He really hates to upset folks. In terms of Mark Briscoe, however, I do think they're going to tease Mark Briscoe turning heel and joining Jarrett and Lethal because that's good for drama. But I don't think it actually will occur. And I don't think it actually will matter in the end. I think he's going to end up swerving and doing the right thing and counting FTR as the winners. All right. Anarchy in the Arena. The Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite. All right. So this match is going to be absolute chaos. I already know. I don't know. Look, this is one of those things where both acts are so well established that it doesn't matter who wins and who loses. Because this feud is probably going to continue forever. It's probably going to continue after this. This tells me they're probably going to drag this thing to something else, probably into Blood and Guts. I don't know. Is Blood and Guts anytime soon? Because it feels like they might drag this to that. And if I had my way, I would say the Blackpool Combat Club would win. But something tells me that the Elite is going to win. They haven't really gotten over on the Blackpool Combat Club since this whole thing started. They've beaten them up a couple of times. They've gotten the jump on them a couple of times, but they haven't beaten them in the ring. So I'm expecting the Elite to get the victory here. People's going to bleed all over each other. Hopefully everybody passed their blood test and nobody gets hepatitis or anything like that. But definitely I want to go with the Elite winning this match. So there that go. Did I mention? Oh yeah, did I talk about Sabu? Sabu's involvement with Cole and Jericho. I didn't. Don't mind. No, never mind. Then I don't care. I'm not going backwards. We're going forwards. MJF versus Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry. AEW World Championship, the supposed main event. There is no option other than MJF remaining the champion. There literally is. There's no window. There's no drainage pipe that could lead you anywhere else. MJF needs to stay the champion. None of these guys are ready to main event the show by themselves. None of these guys are over enough to main event. Maybe Darby is. Maybe Darby has enough fan reaction that he could probably win the title and everybody will be happy. But if you do that, if you pull a Rey Mysterio and Darby wins the title, you have to take off him pretty much immediately. Right, because once the guy gets to the top of it, he kind of loses something. So he gets to the top, and then maybe you wait a week or 2 weeks, and then you give MJF his rematch, and MJF wins the title right back. And I think that's probably the best way to do it, if you're going to do that. But I wouldn't even go that far. I would just say, let's keep it simple. MJF wins. Jungle Boy's in this match to take the pin, or Sammy's in this match to take the pin. Maybe. Out of this, you spin MJF and Darby as a singles match, or you do what I think they're going to do, and that's Orange Cassidy and MJF in the future. And you just don't sacrifice this. And since this is so obvious, I wouldn't even put this on at the main event. I would put this on fourth. My main event would be the Anarchy in the Arena. To me, that's the top feud, featuring all the top players. I mean, you got Danielson and Moxley and Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. These are top guys. They, whether you like them or not is irrelevant. They're top guys for the AEW audience. These guys should go on last, over Jungle Boy and yes, even over the world title. Their angle is bigger than the world title angle. So the world title shouldn't go on last. And I think that the obvious nature of the match, MJF should just go ahead and win. And because you're not going to switch the title, and everybody know you're not switching the title, put it on fourth. I know that's people are, oh, you can't do that. You can't do this as a world champion. No. Save yourself the headache and save all the rest of us the boredom. Since nobody's going to care about this match anyway, put it on early. All right. If you put it on at the end, people are going to be pissed. They're going to be like, this match is too long. As soon as it gets started, it's too long. It sucks. Nobody cares. Nobody believes in any of these guys. You're better off getting it out of the way. Get it out of the way early. All right. So let's go through this again. Adam Cole versus Chris Jericho. I'm going with Adam Cole. Sabu is likely to pull out some barbed wire or something like that and almost kill somebody, probably almost kill himself. The hall monitors will cry and complain that we didn't cancel Sabu hard enough, and they're going to try to cancel him harder and even harder and even harder, and people will continue to ignore them. Ethan Page and the Guns versus the Hardy Party. I'm going to go with the Hardy Party just because I don't give a fuck and I want Jeff Hardy to win. Jade Cargill versus Taya Valkyrie for the TBS title. I'm going with Jade Cargill. Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite. Anarchy in the Arena. I'm going with the Elite. AEW Women's Championship. Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm. I'm going with Toni Storm, even though I'm pretty sure Jamie Hayter is going to win. 21-man Blackjack Battle Royal. I think there will be a new champion. I'm going to go with Ricky Starks officially because he mentioned it. But I could easily see it being somebody who's not mentioned. TNT Championship, Wardlow versus Christian Cage. I'm going to go with Wardlow. And I definitely think somebody's going to come out and help Wardlow. It likely won't be just Arn Anderson. It's probably going to be somebody else too. Tag Team Championship, FTR versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, a.k.a. Team TNA. I'm going to go with FTR, mainly because Team TNA winning would prove too salty for the wrestling media. And the quote-unquote main event, MJF, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, 4-way match, AEW World Title. I'm going with MJF. It literally doesn't make sense for you to pick anybody else. So this is it. Done. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I'll talk.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse